Hey folks, Dust here, and of course I want to discuss a big moment for Team Liquid and really for North American Counter-Strike, and that is the fact that Liquid have finally been able to defeat Astralis in a series, and they do it no less in a finals to get a title, and to make it even crazier, it's their debut event with their new This2B2K and their coach Adren, and there is a lot of different storylines that go around this matchup and around this accomplishment for Team Liquid, and so I definitely wanted to break this down. Now, I'm not going to talk about Liquid's entire path through the tournament at iBUYPOWER Masters 2019, really. I really just want to focus on this matchup between Liquid and Astralis, the context behind it going back into 2018, and then the Grand Final series itself and how Liquid was able to do it and kind of some of the things that we can pull from it. And so, to kind of start things off, I want to talk about the context of this Astralis versus Liquid matchup that ran through several times in 2018, a couple of times when they had Steel in the lineup, and then 10 times whenever they had Taco in the lineup at LAN events. Now, I had put out a thread on Reddit that had a lot of this information right after the finals, and it blew up way more than I thought it would have, and I definitely really appreciate all the support I received in that thread about my work on the desk and things of that nature. But just to kind of reiterate a couple of the big points from there, I mean, going into the event, Astralis had led Liquid in maps 24-4, and they had beaten Liquid all 10 times they played them in a best-of-3 or best-of-5 with Taco on the lineup. And out of the 14 events Liquid attended in 2018 with Taco, Astralis knocked them out of 6 of those tournaments, 5 times in the finals, and then once in the semifinals at the Face It Major. You know, Astralis was responsible for over half of the best-of-3 or best-of-5 losses that Liquid had in 2018, and were also responsible for around 44% of Liquid's total offline map losses for the year. So with all that information, you can just see how much of a problem Astralis was for Team Liquid. I mean, Team Liquid had a pretty good record against really any other team out there in the world. The only exceptions would maybe be FaZe to a degree and, you know, that North lineup at DreamHack Masters Stockholm. But, you know, they more than often beat Energy more than Energy gave them problems. They were able to beat Made in Brazil, able to go toe-to-toe with Mousesports pretty well, had a really huge head-to-head record against Na'Vi, and a lot of that was what drove them to be a top 3 team in the world, to make a bunch of finals appearances, to have all these top 4 finishes. I mean, Liquid only placed outside of the top 4 times out of 14 events last year. It really was Astralis that was just the one they could never beat. That was the one that always kind of haunted them, and so to get this victory was massive for the organization, massive for the core 4 players of this team who have been playing against Astralis for over a year, never really being able to have any success other than getting a couple of map wins here and there. The only real one that was super notable was the overtime one in Inferno at the Major. I mean, everything else was just a map within a best-of-3 or best-of-5 series that they ultimately lost anyway. And so, yeah, this has to be huge for the mentality of the team, the confidence that they have. It just, you know, has to hopefully do wonders for them going forward. Now, that's not to say that because they beat Astralis this one time, this opens the floodgates, and from this point forward, we expect Liquid to get the better of Astralis the majority of the time. But I do think that it gets the monkey off their back at least. You know, it kind of gets them a little bit more focused, and they know it's possible now. And I think that's really the key. And we'll talk about some more big takeaways, but now let's actually focus on the best-of-3 itself. And we'll start with the pick ban. So Liquid actually does remove Nuke again, and this was huge because they had run up against the wall on Nuke against Astralis many times. I think they played against Astralis maybe 7 or so times on Nuke throughout 2018, and obviously lost all of them. And they had made the conscious decision to switch that up even at the end of last year. Remember that they banned Nuke and were willing to play Train final. Actually did beat Astralis on Train in a series, though they still didn't win the series, but at least they got a map off of them, and it kind of was at least a proof of concept that, yeah, maybe we should, you know, definitely just avoid Nuke and try to figure out another map to worry about. So this happens again in this series with Liquid removing Nuke. Astralis actually decides to remove Cash, which is no surprise there. Kind of their permaban. Every now and then they'll go a different direction. But against Liquid, banning Cash makes perfect sense. It's probably Liquid's best map from last year. Super dominant on Cash. Definitely should get rid of it, and they do. Now, Liquid does not decide to try to pick into an Astralis potential weakness on a Train. They actually decided to go for a comfort pick on Inferno, which, again, was pretty crazy because they had only ever beaten Astralis a single time on Inferno, and that was in overtime. The other 7 times they played it, they lost all of those 7. Now, granted, there were some close games involved in that, but yeah, that was another wall they kept running up against on Astralis. It was one of the most played maps against them, and again, they only pulled off 1 victory out of 8 games. But it was also a comfort map for Team Liquid. I mean, outside of the Astralis matchup, they were wildly successful on Inferno. It was their second best map after Cash, and so they decided to try to go that direction. Astralis go for Dust 2, a map they had beaten Liquid all 3 times that they had played it last year, a map that Astralis had only lost a single time coming into this tournament out of 14 games, and definitely a super strong map for them. You know, Liquid then second ban Mirage, which was a little bit interesting. You know, I thought Liquid was fairly comfortable on Mirage, but I think they saw maybe their issues against Fnatic in the semifinals and know that Astralis more often than not was still able to beat them on Mirage, and they decided to get rid of that, despite the fact that I had heard that they really did not want to play Overpass. In fact, that was their ban against Fnatic, if I'm not mistaken, was to get rid of Overpass because that was one of the maps they hadn't really practiced very much, didn't really have much prepared for, and historically Liquid didn't really do that well on Overpass compared to some of the other maps in the pool. So yeah, the fact that they left Overpass in and decided to ban Mirage is actually a little bit odd. Astralis does go ahead and just take the opportunity to get rid of Train, and so Overpass wants to being the third map. So when I saw the pick ban, I thought to myself, man, this is going to be rough for Liquid. Unless they can take their pick Inferno, they are in a lot of trouble, because I actually thought Astralis was pretty well favored to beat them on Dust 2. And then even on Overpass, yeah, Astralis has had their issues on it, but still had more confidence in Astralis on Overpass than Team Liquid. And so we go into the series, and it starts off in Inferno, and I'm not really going to spend too much time here because there's not much to say other than that Astralis absolutely destroyed Liquid on this map. I mean, they started on CT side. They won that half 12-3. Xyp9x and Glaive were constantly denying any type of banana control to Team Liquid. So many times that one of those guys would aggressively push down and get a kill and just absolutely shut down Liquid. Not only deny them space, but also get a man advantage. I mean, I think through the first 10 rounds of the first half, the 2 players that were attacking B for Team Liquid were Elige and Stewie. Elige had obviously already been doing this, but they actually moved Nitro away from doing this and into jumping window and attacking Boiler. And then they moved Stewie 2K into this attacking B position with Elige. And again, through these first 10 rounds, Elige had 2 kills and Stewie had 0. So this was just absolute denied access to that side of the map. And then to make matters even worse, Mages pushed Halls a couple of times, got a couple of kills. So, I mean, Liquid were just getting rattled. They weren't getting any space. They weren't finding any openings. Also, Astralis never got sold on any fakes that Liquid tried to throw. There was a couple of times Liquid would put some apartments pressure towards A, then try to go late B, but Astralis would still have 3 members at B ready to defend whenever Liquid were attacking the site after they tried to throw the fake. So it was just everything that could go wrong did go wrong for Liquid on this Inferno game. And obviously, Astralis didn't really have any trouble finishing off the game on the second half. And so that was a wildly successful map for Astralis, and Liquid showed a lot of nothing there. So after a huge loss on Inferno, now they have to go on the Dust 2, and you just think the odds have to be stacked against Liquid now. I mean, they lost their map pick in huge fashion. They're going on to Dust 2, where Astralis has beaten them all 3 times they've played. Astralis has been a dominant Dust 2 team. And on top of all of that, which makes it even crazier, is Astralis actually goes up to 5-1 in the first half on their CT side. And now you're just thinking, man, this is it. You know, this is going to be another title for Astralis. They're just going to keep continuing their legacy. They're going to continue to have this head-to-head edge over Team Liquid. Is this going to be, you know, rinse and repeat of every other matchup that they've had? But then something crazy happens. Liquid's able to rattle off 8 rounds in a row to make it 9-5, take the lead. And while Astralis does close out the half with 1 more round to make it 9-6, Liquid have put themselves in position to perhaps take this map away from Astralis and stay in this best of 3. And that is just crazy stuff. And the way that this really happens is they are able to get their first gun round off of Stewie getting an op pick at middle, which they use in the 4-on-4 to get some pressure on the catwalk and do a cat long A split. They do lose a lot of duels along the way, and it actually puts them in a 2 versus 4. But Naf and Elige pull off this 2 versus 4 and make it 5-2. And, you know, this is just another example of how clutch Naf is. And he had a lot of clutches in the series. He's always been pretty well known as a clutch player in the NA scene, particularly over the past couple of years. Very good late round player. You know, it wasn't really until he got onto Renegades where you started to see him be more explosive in early to mid-round situations, which he still can do for Team Liquid as well. But again, his whole Optic career, it was just that clutch late round factor, and you really see it come through in this round and throughout the rest of the series. Because what happens after they get the second round to make it 5-2 is that Astralis' economy is actually in pretty bad shape. And they're able to, you know, get a quick cat execute where Elige gets a pick on the device, and then they just steamroll that into a round victory where Astralis has to kind of save the rest of their guns. Then the very next round, Liquid does another explosive mid-B split. and they're able to get this because Unleash catches the guy on top of the box in CT spawn, so they don't get denied access to B up the ramp. And so these explosive plays up Cat and this mid to B split, both rounds of which Unleash gets the big opening kill to get them to space, is, gets them just to a tie situation now off the back of these explosive plays and off the back of Astralis' economy being poor. Then when Astralis is finally able to get guns in their hands again, Stewie makes another pretty big play with an AWP, getting a pick on B. Him and Leash decide to push into B off the back of this pick. They actually both die, but they cause a really big rotation. And in the 3 versus 4, Nitro and Twist are able to get up Cat, get a play on the A site. Twist, having gotten them back into a 3-on-3 at this point with the pick on the Glaive. And then it basically trades down to a 1v1, Naf versus Xyp9x, the 2 clutch players. Obviously, Xyp9x way more of a legacy of that, but Naf, again, within the NA scene, really known for it. And Naf gets it. And now they take the lead 6-5, and Astralis has to save, so now it's 7-5. And then, the next round is where it gets really crazy. This is the round that I feel was the big game changer. Liquid's up 7-5, but Astralis is back to buying, and they set themselves up to win this round. What happens is Dupree's playing outside B, and Xyp9x is in CT spawn. There's no mid to B smoke from Liquid, and 5 of them just kind of creep through double doors and get ready to explode. Maybe they're going to throw a smoke after they get out, but they want to be able to capitalize on it a lot faster than just throwing it from behind Xbox and then kind of coming out after it already deployed. So they just want to get a timing on Astralis. But what happens is that Mace just throws a pop flash for them to peek together. And so Xyp9x and Dupree both peek mid. There's a couple of really blind players from Liquid just sitting there. You think, man, this is going to be fish in the barrel, spray down from Xyp9x and Dupree on the crossfire. This is going to be really bad. But no, what actually happens is that there's a couple of players who actually aren't blind, Nitro and Elige, and they get the 2 opening kills, and then Elige catches Matrix in window as well, and so they just steamroll this into another round victory, and this is how really this 9-6 half happens, is off the back of some really crazy explosive plays, kind of creep out plays, trading efficiently. Elige had so many big kills in this, and yeah, it was really crazy stuff. Now in the second half, Team Liquid are able to win pistol and make it 10-6, then they make it 11-6 off the back of it. Astralis actually decides to buy a couple of AKs because they won the pistol round. It didn't work, and this started off Astralis with the poor economy, and this is what really allows Team Liquid to kind of jump up to get to 12-6, basically. They're in position now to start closing the game. And then for the rest of this game, we start to see some big differences in Team Liquid's play on the CT side in comparison to some other Dust 2 games I've seen. Famously, their Dust 2 losses against Mousesports in the Grand Finals of New York was because they were being really timid, they were saving a lot, they weren't going for plays and being proactive, and you really saw them come out of their shell here, because to get to 13-6, Elige actually just does a quick cat peek and gets him into a quick 5-on-4 and then falls back. And we do see Astralis, push up Cat and get a kill and get it back even, but then Nitro flanks them really fast, pushing double doors, gets a kill. They get a 4-on-3 situation from here, and then Naf just is able to, in all the chaos, kind of creep up on A ramp and spray down the last 3 members of Astralis and makes it 13-6. And then at 14-6, Team Liquid, again, gets really proactive, fights actively for long A control, and Astralis goes for it. And Twist is able to kill 3 players, and Elige gets 1. And they use really good utility in all the chaos. They scrap through it all, and they get another big round victory, and they wind up winning this map, 16-11. Now, there is this really big comeback from Astralis happening. You start to get a little bit worried. You start to have some deja vu flashbacks to the Mousesports comeback on Dust 2 at New York. But this is where Stewie really makes another big play, and he actually is having to defend against a mid-B split and gets 2 huge kills with the op and stays alive to buy time for a rotate to allow Elige to finish off the round and finish off the map for Team Liquid. So, in the end on Dust 2, Stewie was huge in this game. He ends the game with 27 kills. He ended the game with the AWP, getting those 2 big kills, staying alive, making sure they could actually close the game when Astralis was making the comeback. He had a couple of impactful rounds on T side with an AWP to create pressure, get a kill, cause rotations, open up some space for Team Liquid. So he did a lot this game. Again, Elige did a ton this game, getting opening kills a few times on T side, up catwalk or in a mid to B split. Naf had a couple of clutches. Twist had that big 3K spray down at long A to help close off the game on CT side, and in general had a pretty good game. So, really everyone performed well this game. I think Stewie had 27 kills and the rest between 17 and 20. And, again, it was just Liquid keeping their composure despite the fact they lost the first map, despite the fact they were down 5-1 here on Dust 2. They were explosive. They were proactive. They weren't just sitting back waiting the game to come to them. They weren't being timid. They weren't in that play not to lose mentality, and they really were just able to make some big plays that I've already discussed. And I think that another big part of this is the fact that, you know, there were a couple of key timeouts where Jin was chiming in a lot. And I know that Twist kind of said in a Twitch chat that one I'm getting screenshot and put on Reddit that, you know, he would notice their mistakes, call them out early, and give them some solutions to try. And apparently this had an impact on their play to help them make the comeback. I'm not to say that Adren is the main cause of their success. He's the X factor, but he certainly contributed. And then again, you had Stewie making huge plays, everyone playing really well. This was a crazy win for Team Liquid. But they're still not out of the woods yet, because now they have to go into Overpass, and that they're not very comfortable on. And again, Astralis gets a huge lead. They go up 7-0 from their CT side, and also they had a 9-2 lead even after that. And, I mean, the first 7 rounds that Astralis won, it wasn't even close. I mean, they were just blowing Liquid out of the water. And so you're thinking, man, like, Liquid, crazy comeback on Dust 2, crazy that they even forced the third map. But here it is. Here comes the KO from Astralis. You know, they are way ahead. Liquid not looking good. But again, they're able to make a comeback and actually win the last 4 rounds in a row of the half to actually keep it competitive at 9-6. And really, the way that they were able to do this was because, you know, on their T side, the first round that they wanted, that streak of 4 at the end, was just an explosive B hit where Twist gets 2 entries off the back of some really good utility usage. You know, they flushed Magus off of barrels with the Molotov. They had a couple of basic smokes, some good flashes, able to roll this into what winds up becoming a 1v1. Again, it's Naf in the 1v1. Again, he wins it. And then the next round, Liquid changed it up a little bit. They actually decided to push in the short B instead of through Monster this time, and they trade 2 for 1 and then fall back, kind of chill. Nitro throws a slight fake towards A with the smoke at long, and then they re-aggress on B. Alish gets another pickup sandbags. They flood out Monster, and this re-aggression and this slight little bit of utility from Nitro on A opens up the door again on that B bomb site, and boom, they get another round. Then Astralis has to full save, so Team Liquid get that easy, and then in that last round, Team Liquid puts pressure all across the map, making it really hard for Astralis to read what's going on. But then it just boils down to the fact that Nitro catches 2 kills inside the bathrooms on Device and Dupree, and that pretty much seals the deal. That's 9-6. Then we go on the second half, and this time Liquid's able to finally get a good start in a half against Astralis. They win pistol, they quickly tie things up 9-9, they win the opening gun round, and this turns into actually a 6-0 run where they go up into a score of 12-9. Now, they actually only allowed 2 rounds this entire T-side from Astralis, including the 6-0 start that they had to the half. And everyone just played so well throughout this CT side. This was one of those situations where just everyone was making big plays. I think at least every player had one big multi-frag round. Like I remember around that Alish had on the A-bomb site. Nitro had a couple of big plays on the A-bomb site as well. Naf had several multi-kill rounds on both sides of the map because he was kind of playing their main rotator with the AUG. Stewie had that big multi-frag round with the AWP the very last round of the game to close it. There was one round where Twist put sandbags and got a couple of kills. So they were just all playing so very well. Alish wound up with 14 kills, but everyone else was between 20 and 23 frags, with Naf being the top fragger. And then the rest being between 20 and 21 kills and going positive for the map. So just a brilliant team effort. And I think that's another big thing out of this, besides the composure, besides the being more proactive, you know, besides the adrenaline timeouts to give them a little bit of something, you know, all that. It's that we finally had pretty much everyone play well at the same time. You know, it seemed like any other time these people played against each other, at least one person from Liquid kind of went missing. And that didn't really happen in this series. They all had their moments. They all had their plays. They all, particularly in this final moment, this CT side of Overpass, everyone shined through. Everyone made the plays they needed to make, held their spot, did their job, and then they wound up winning. And I mean, this is just incredible because we talked about how on Dust 2, you know, Liquid had never beaten Astralis on Dust 2. They had lost it all 3 times they played it prior, Astralis being such a strong Dust 2 team. But they had also lost the one time they played Astralis on Overpass. And again, Astralis way more known as an Overpass team than Team Liquid. So that is a huge one in itself as well. I mean, this story is so crazy when you think about it. You know, when you think about all the context I gave at the beginning of the video of just how one-sided this rivalry has been in favor of Astralis throughout all of 2018. When you think about the particular maps that Liquid were able to beat Astralis on. I mean, Dust 2 and Overpass, those are like some of the least likely maps you would think Liquid would be able to beat Astralis on if they were ever to beat them on maps. Again, it was the maps that had never happened for them before. Then you go to the fact that they had to play from behind both maps that they won. They were down 7-0 in the final map of Astralis and came back. They were down 5-1 on Dust 2 and came back. So there's just so many different things that make this just so crazy. It's in a finals on top of that. So many finals I got knocked out of last year by Astralis. To end the event, Naf goes plus 50. He gets the MVP. Stewie was neutral for the event, the newcomer. I think that's mostly because he just had a really rough series against Fnatic. But in the 2 map wins against Astralis, he was really, really strong. An X factor in some of those games with some of the plays that he made and how well he fragged. And then the other 3, Elige, Twist, and Nitro, overall had a really good tournament. There was definitely a couple of matches where Elige was a little bit off in the Astralis series, but he was great in their Fnatic win to help them even get to the finals. And then again, everyone really shined through on that CT side overpass. So again, this is an incredible moment for Team Liquid to finally beat Astralis after all that's been against them from Astralis throughout 2018. Again, this does not mean that the floodgates have been opened and that this means that Liquid can now beat Astralis all the time. But I think, again, it kind of gets the monkey off the back. It proves that they can do it. It proves that it's possible. It's just a great way to debut the new lineup with Stewie 2K and Adrian as the coach. It gives them something to kind of feed off of going forward. I know some people are going to say that tournament conditions is what caused this. Astralis being rusty is what caused this. It is certainly true that the Pre had one of his worst tournaments in a very, very long time at this event. And in general, no one really played well from Astralis against Liquid in this series. But there's always that debate of how much of it is them being off form and not playing well, and how much of it is Liquid playing really well and shutting them down. It's always a debate that you're going to have, and it's probably a little bit of both, obviously. And yeah, tournament conditions factor in a little bit, sure, but both teams are dealing with the same conditions, right? So I think you can't take the extreme end either way. Like, I don't think it's fair to say that this win isn't really even something to consider because of the conditions and the situation and all that. But you can't go the other way if you're a big Liquid fan and think that this was so massive and this means that Liquid's going to win the major and this means that Liquid's going to be able to beat Astralis on a regular basis now. That is still way yet to be seen. You can't really go that far either. So if anything, I think that just in isolation, this is a really cool moment for the Team Liquid organization, for the core players that have been, grinding with this team for a long, long time. And, they got it done. And it was cool how they got it done because you could see the adjustments in their mentality and their style of play. And that's really what helped them do it. I think that's what's been great is they haven't had to make stark adjustments. There are a lot of situations where Stewie is just playing the spot that Taco played, or even by swapping positions around, everyone still gets in positions they're comfortable playing. And this happens on the CT side as well as the T side. I don't want to get into that too much because this video is already kind of dragging on. I just really wanted to focus on the Astralis versus Liquid matchup. But yeah, I think Liquid's found a really good way to, again, kind of be a little bit more assertive, implement Stewie 2K in a meaningful way, but not rock the boat too much, still kind of keep some of the foundational pieces that really worked well for Team Liquid, but then kind of just build upon that. And it's cool to see that they finally got it done. It's a great story. So hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe for more content. Catch you next time.